Oh, am I excited for this? For this episode, get ready, ladies, and any gentlemen that are listening as well. I have Dr. Jenn, no,
Nope.
opposite, Dr.
Opposite.
Teralyn
Yes.
and Therapist Jenn.
That's me. There we go.
Welcome, ladies, to the podcast.
Thanks
Thanks
for
for having
having
us.
me.
Of course. And before we go into the 10 quick fire questions, I wanted to share with my listeners a little bit of what your YouTube intro says, just so they can get a vibe of what might be coming. So I'm just going to read from my notes here. On the YouTube and on the podcast that these ladies are the hosts of, the Gaslit Truth podcast, it says, warning. This is not your grandma's therapy session. Prepare for an adrenaline fueled exploration of the mind's darkest corners where the only rule is there are no rules. It's time to embrace the uncomfortable, challenge the conventional, and confront the truths that society would rather keep hidden. Welcome to the Gaslit Truth, where the therapy is unfiltered, the revelations are explosive. Open your ears, buckle up, and get ready to be gaslit. Boom.
We wrote that,
Or
I think.
or ungaslit, perhaps,
Or yeah,
right?
gaslit,
Yeah.
ungaslit, side
Well, yeah.
gaslit. Yeah. That is
Yeah.
that's a pretty damn good explanation of our podcast, I think.
hmm
You wrote it.
I feel like we
But
have to live
no,
that now. So let's
we
live it
wrote
now.
that.
Yeah.
That sounds damn good. All right.
All right, so
Yes,
I've got
exactly.
10 quick fire questions, and just for ease of order of answering, I've got Jen top left and Teralyn at the bottom. So if we go Jen, Teralyn, like with your answers, is that cool?
Sure. Sure.
Sure,
Right.
you might have to remind me whose turn is next, but
She likes
Okay,
she's pushy, so she'll jump in. It's fine. I'll yell.
cool. Right, number one, favorite food.
Oh, for mine, it's gonna have to be. Oh gosh, that's tough. I really love sushi. Any kind of sushi, for sure. I'm gonna go with sushi or ice cream. It's gotta be one of the two.
Nice.
Mm. So am I answering the same question then, or?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. So that's easy. Pizza.
Oh,
hmm
yum. I think that's mine too. Number two, Jen, your favorite sound.
Uh, honestly, one of my favorite sounds is probably the sound of my dog's feet on the floor,
Hmm,
running on the laminate floor. I
love.
know I should say like my children talking, but I'm not going to say that. It's not. It's my dog.
Is there a least favorite sound? Because the dog's nails clicking on the
That's the
laminate
next
floor is
question.
my least favorite sound.
Oh, I love it.
You
Love
can
it.
have both. What's your favorite, Teralyn?
Actually, my very favorite is it's so cliche. I love the Gulf Shores of Florida, the sounds of the waves.
Mm,
hmm
I can feel
That's my
that.
favorite. hmm
All
Staying on
right.
the same topic, number three, your favorite smell.
Ooh, that's a toss up. So it's probably like the smell of lilacs or peonies. That those two smells are probably probably my tops. Yeah.
Nice.
Ooh, I like that. So my favorite smell would be fruit stripe gum. Do y'all remember that?
I don't
Yes.
know what that is. Is that a British
Oh,
thing that I don't know what it is?
You might not know what it is. It's a
yeah,
gum from I don't know if they still make it from childhood. It's a
they do.
very fruity
Yeah.
gum, but it tastes and smells so good, but it only lasts about 15 seconds.
I think
So,
we had
yeah.
one called Hubba Bubba.
Oh, well, that's probably pretty close. Yeah.
Mm,
Similar. Very similar.
Yep.
Yes.
hmm
good
Yes.
Fruit
answer.
stripe gum.
Oh, number four. I love how I'm going, ooh, as if like I didn't write the questions like 10 minutes ago
Are you
when I
surprised?
did.
That's a good one.
Number four, Jen, first, what superpower would you have for the day?
Oh, wow.
By the way, I love it that Jen goes first because then I get a second to think
Yeah,
about
I
my
was thinking
answer.
that.
You
I was
do.
like,
You
wait, is
do.
this fair?
No,
Yeah.
it's not, but I'm taking it.
I think if I had a superpower, it would be to just have the capacity for like to make myself or anybody else feel like at peace, like whatever that feeling is. Like to just wake up and to just know the whole day I won't have to feel anything other than just feeling at peace. Or if I could do
Mm,
that for somebody else too. Um, that would be my superpower.
love.
Yeah.
I like that because
Pop
the
that
first thing
one,
that
Dr. Teralyn.
well, the first thing that I thought of was like the superpower to take away any pain that my kids might be feeling, whether it's emotional pain or physical
Yeah.
pain.
Mm,
There you
I
go.
think that would be my superpower.
Okay.
Mhm.
love those. Pain removal. Number
Mhm.
5, favorite word, if you have one.
It's probably a swear word of some sorts because I swear a lot. So the first thing organically that came to my brain was shit. Like, I just feel like I can use that word in any context. So that's the first one that I'm just going to give you that one because I don't know if I really have a favorite word. I have a lot of not favorite words that we use as therapists that drive me crazy. So those ones are easier, but favorite,
Yes.
I'm just going to go with shit.
Nice.
Shit, Terry.
Well, originally what came to my mind first was gaslit. But I actually hate the word gaslit. I hate it because it's such a
So
buzzword
cliche.
of today.
It is.
So the second word that came to my head was actually deprescribe.
Oh,
That seems to be a word that Jen and I are talking about a lot.
It
So maybe
is.
that's
I
why it's on
I
my
should have said
brain.
that. I literally just
Yeah.
vented
I
about that
like
word.
shit
Like,
though. That's good too. Or the F
shit.
word would be mine.
Shit.
Yeah.
Let's deprescribe. All right. Here
Yeah.
we go.
even though
Put 'em
this isn't
together.
about me, I feel like I want to add mine in just
Yeah.
because.
Yeah.
So originally it was going to be fuck, but
I
don't you
love
just
how you say that word.
don't you just love this word?
Now it's Teralyn, right? Teralyn.
Teralyn, don't
Right.
you just love this
Teralyn.
word? You ready?
Yeah.
Discombobulated.
Oh,
Oh yes. Yes.
that's a good
Yes.
one.
It's a
That
good
is
In
a
one.
good one.
airports, do you see the recombobulation zones anywhere?
Oh
Do you ever see that?
no.
What? What's
Some airports have, because it's funny, right? Because you get off an airplane and you're like, I feel so discombobulated. And some of them have the recombobulation zone, and I just think it's hilarious.
That's a
that
good
is very
one.
smart.
Love
Yes.
that.
Yes.
All
Mhm.
right, number 6, early bird or night owl?
Oh, night owl. That's easy.
God,
I can't get
neither.
my ass out of bed to save my fucking life ever.
Yeah. I don't like either. I'm more of a noon.
No, that's not cheap. You have to stick within the parameters of the question.
No, you don't. You can
Terry.
do what the fuck you want,
All
Terry.
right. All right.
Okay, good.
Damn
Haha.
it. It's not my podcast. I need to stop being
Tried to put
bossy.
me in a box, but it doesn't work. Yay.
Don't box me in. All
Right.
right.
Noon. I love that one.
Noon.
Tea or coffee? Number 7.
Ooh. So I'm gonna say coffee. Even though I'm really getting on the tea train a lot more than I have been, but I'll go with a good solid cup of half calf.
Nice.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yep. Same coffee. I would go with 8 cups if I could a
Oh
day,
gosh.
but I can't.
Yeah.
So
I'd be like
half
this.
calf for me too. I used to. I used, believe it or not, I used to drink a whole pot by myself and was not like that. And I could sleep, but that was other issues, right? Like,
Yeah.
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Wow. Okay.
Back before
Beach.
you knew what you know.
Yeah,
Exactly.
indeed. Beach or forest?
Well, that's
I'm gonna
easy.
go with beach. Yeah, for sure
Beach
beach.
all day.
Yeah.
Mhm. Beach all day.
I knew Teralyn would say beach because you said about the sounds of the Florida Keys and
Oh,
the ocean.
you
Yeah.
will if I ever have the opportunity to be on a beach, you can find me there. Yep.
Love. Oh,
My favorite.
again. Oh, number 9. Favorite sex position?
Okay. So whatever it is, I'm gonna be on the bottom. Anything
Nice.
on the bottom. Doesn't even matter what it is. I will be on the bottom. So I
Okay.
could do any of the above. Just as long as it's not the
I'll
above,
be
it's the
more
below.
specific. Well, I'll be more specific, and my husband will agree that I like doggy style the best. Mhm.
Okay. All right.
Nice.
Just hits you in
I
all the
think it
right places.
depends I'm very happily married, just putting it out there. But from past experience, I think it depends on the person's penis, honestly.
Yeah.
Sure.
I've never
I
really
think it
thought
depends
about it
on
that
my
way.
age and my ability to do things too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it depends on how like stimulated my clitoris is. Because that
Yes.
is half
There
of
you
the battle
go.
too.
Yeah.
So that one matters too. So
Mhm.
I mean, we could just talk about sex positions the whole time too.
I'm sure
Not
sex
worry.
is going to come up again at some point because it's my
All
podcast, and I
right, okay, I'm ready for it.
seem to go there because it's a taboo topic that people don't, especially British people. Oh, sex. Oh
Oh,
no, that's
really?
private.
Oh, that's really okay. That's a thing. See, okay, that's a Brit thing. You guys
Yeah.
keep that one kind of tucked away secretly, huh?
Yeah, because it's
That's
too
shocking because
crude.
really, but yet like your advertisings and things like
Yes.
that are not
Yeah,
crude.
your films are so sexual, and you're like lots of things are.
Well, welcome to
That's
the
just
government.
projection.
Like, sex
Yes.
sells, power and control, but you can't fucking talk about it ever. But
Yeah.
you need to buy from it.
Oh, that's
Mm.
interesting.
Yes.
She's so smart. She has all these perspectives that we are just like
Look.
so on board with.
All right, last one. What do you want people to take away from this conversation we're about to have?
Oh boy.
I have one right away if you want me to.
Yeah, go.
Would you like to go first?
Want me
Okay,
to
go
go
for
first
it.
so you can think about this one? Okay.
Go ahead. I got a couple. Let me see what you come
All
up
right.
with.
You always have the chance to make a new decision.
Yeah. So mine was going to be something similar. What I was going to say is, I want you to think about something in a way that you haven't before. Like get curious about something in a way that you have not before. Like that's the whole goal of like, I feel like every time I open my mouth, even like in my practice, whether we're doing a podcast, whether I've, any of the ventures, it's like, that's the new
like
mantra.
Jen and I
want you to think about,
Jen
get
and I
curious.
always say, get curious. Just that's it. Get curious. You don't have to listen to what we have to say or agree to what we have to say, but just get curious about it.
Oh, yes.
That's
Love
it.
that. So I'm going to, because I'm the facilitator and I've got two of you, I'm going to say a name and then ask a question. And then I would like then the other person to then answer from their perspective. So, Teralyn, why did you start the Gaslit Truth podcast with Jen? What was your story leading up to that point?
Okay, so Jen joined my practice. Okay, so and Jen and I have very similar backgrounds as far as professional backgrounds. We very, very similar. And we would just be on the phone for, I don't know, sometimes a couple hours. Yeah, sometimes a couple hours just chatting about shit that mattered to us, that we were frustrated about with the mental health world, just all of the things. And I think at one point I said, hey, we just need to put this on a podcast of some sort, right? And to be honest, this was like my fourth go around with podcasts, I think. Fourth. This is the fourth one that I've had. And I said either the third or the fourth.
I think it's
Fourth.
fourth.
This is the fourth.
Yeah, you've said fourth to me.
This is fourth. Yeah, this is the fourth go around that I've had with the podcast, and I said, "This is it. If this one doesn't take off, then I'm out of the podcast world forever." But I said I really feel like Jen and I have the secret sauce because we are able to be so conversational with each other and really bring some different truths together, and we don't always agree, and often we have a different perspective on the same topic that we're able to talk about. And I guess that's why, like, we just had these big conversations that were like, we cannot be the only ones that think like this. So let's bring this narrative forward. That was pretty much it for me.
Yeah.
Plus, I think Jen is super cool. So I'll,
She is. You
I think
both
I
are.
told her, two superheroes, no sidekicks is what I said to her in the very beginning.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Love that.
That was awesome.
Jen, why did, I mean, obviously Teralyn shared obviously part of the story, but what led up to you starting the podcast and perhaps even being a therapist?
So the story I think Terry gave pretty well summarizes like why I came into this too. I think part of the push, at least for me to do this, there's a couple things. One, like Terry's, like ever since I started, working in her practice, right? Like, so everything, she pretty much pushes me into lots of things, and it's all good stuff. Like she's really good at convincing, right? Like, and I'm like, yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
Be a cult leader.
Yeah, I may not have time for that. Really, like, and she's been doing that since like 2006, pretty sure. So Terry and I met 15 years ago or so,
At least, yeah.
something like that. In my very first job as a therapist, working for the Department of Corrections. And I walked in and she was one of the therapists that was there and ended up being my mentor. And so we had known each other for quite some time, worked together for many years, separated out after, well, it's probably only like a handful of years. She went on and did her own private practice thing and opened these practices. And I just kept working for the state and working in prison facilities. And then somehow fate just brought us back together again, the day that I recognized that I needed to get the hell out of working in corrections because it was going to kill me. It truly was. And she was the only person I could think of that I knew left and made it out to the other side. It was doing well. And so it's the universe brought us back together, right? Many years later. But when we started getting back together and working together again, she started to ask me very intriguing questions because I was so programmed to view the world in such a certain way from working for this estate entity for so long. The way that we did things, there was only one way, and challenging the conventional was something you just didn't do. And if you did, you got your ass handed to you, usually by either a psychiatrist or a warden or a supervisor or someone that just wasn't quite agreeing with you. And so it was refreshing to start having these conversations with her, which is kind of what led me to jumping into this podcast, because we started to talk about these bigger things that we fall short on, and why, whether it's taking medications and how mainstream that is and how accepted that is versus following these diagnostic manuals that we use to label people right and left, that is done in a very subjective manner. And we just started getting into all of these things. And then for me, there's a lot of personal pieces, which may come out later, that I recognize that I have to challenge for myself. So it was almost like this tractor beam of her talking about stuff. And I'm like, oh, I'm in. And then I started to be honest with myself, and it led to like, we have to podcast this. Right. So it was very personal, I think, for me, because she hit all these areas, these doors open that I was like, finally, I can talk about this shit. Like I can have an idea that doesn't fit the little perfect evidence-based box where people just keep throwing the word research out right and left and have no idea like the etiology of that research, but no, we're going to go with it. So she just had all these crazy ass ideas and I was like, I'm on it. I'm in on it. It's all about getting curious. So for me, that's what drove me into the podcast piece with her. So.
And I feel like, because of my TikTok following and what I do on TikTok, that I felt more confident at this stage that it would be received. I don't want to say, well, it would be received, right? Like, because I think the reception of the podcast has been largely really good, and people have been very curious about it. But I think we are now in a space in society with mental health that we're kind of fed up. I think people are getting real fed up with status quo thinking about mental health. I think they're exhausted by it because the message is so negative and not empowering, and I think the time was just right. I think the audience was there. I think the time was right. And to be fair, I'm in a stage of my life where I really just don't give a fuck anymore about sharing the things that I actually know to be my truth and the truth that I've seen, right? Which sometimes contradicts, research, right? Like,
yes,
when the research and reality collide, you take a step back and you're like, okay, this cannot be just me.
Right.
This has to be more of a collective thought. And it's crazy the amount of validation that Jen and I have given to our validation I never expected in a million years. So that's, I guess that's what just keeps me going is knowing that people are listening and they're wanting a different truth for themselves, or they're just wanting their truth to be recognized some way because it is very different. It's been gaslit for years,
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
yeah.
Well, let's dive
Mhm.
into some of those. So, Jen, I know there's going to be a lot, but the one that comes to your mind first in terms of therapy and mental health, what's the biggest BS that you and Teralyn have talked about in this space? I'm just putting it out there.
I'm going to show you a visual for your YouTube followers.
Ooh, yep. I'm all about
She's getting out
visual.
of her chair, everybody. Head over to YouTube fast.
Shit is getting serious
Oh,
over
I see
here.
what she's got. Yeah, she's serious.
This fucking book right here.
There you go.
The Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders.
Ugh.
As you can see,
100.
I've burned it. See how I've burned it a few times here?
You actually have. She actually has. She's
Oh,
not
yeah,
joking.
This book, this really kicked off a lot of stuff for me. Like Terry and I have talked so much about this. So in a nutshell, what this book is as a therapist, psychologist, anyone who needs to diagnose, we have kind of a couple different books. There's this one, and then the ICD-10, which is one that, like, if you are I don't know, Terry, how you describe it, if you're like a provider within like a
Biller coder.
Billing and coding,
Yeah.
I guess, kind of thing. That's probably the easiest way to describe it. But
how you get paid.
Yes. I was trying to come up with a scenario, right? Like, so for Terry and I, right, there's codes that we put when we have to diagnose somebody and see somebody as therapists, right? So they come and see us. And what's
Jen,
interesting
I
is
want to
people
add
don't
in
know
something
this
here.
process.
The only reason we have to provide the code is so we can get paid.
Oh,
That's it.
Yes.
Right.
So these codes that are in these books, right? Like they're equivalent. This is equivalent to this other one called the ICD. And essentially what it is we put a label on somebody. There's numbers that go in front of these diagnoses, right? Those numbers help us get paid because they get submitted to insurance companies.
Right.
Okay. So if you're somebody who's coming and paying privately to see us as a therapist, okay, these codes, these labels, they don't mean shit. They don't matter. We can see somebody and not put all those labels on people.
Yeah.
But if we want to get paid, which, I'm there to the long haul, and yet same time I gotta fucking make a paycheck here. So let's be honest.
It's such a dichotomy.
Like,
that's the
that's the
gaslit
part
truth
that
right there.
really-
Yes.
That is the gaslit truth, right? Like, we preach that these labels are horrific, and this book does so much damage, which is where I'm going to go with this long explanation here happening, because I get real hot on this topic. But yet we have to use it. We have to. There is no way around Terry and I ever being able to make a living unless we have a private practice that's completely paid out of pocket by every single person we see. We are required to put a label on somebody so that we can get a paycheck. That is required by insurance companies. So this book is very dangerous, and we offer a diagnosis to people when we see them. And I'm going to tell you, it's a very subjective process. As much as the world is gaslit to believe that there's a shit ton of like assessment and science that goes behind how I label somebody from this book, that's a bunch of bullshit, because we've all been gaslit to believe that. And the example I often say to people is, this is your first session with me. You're going to walk away with a label. I want you to know that you're going to have a code put on you so that insurance covers this session for you, and so that I also can get paid. But people think that doesn't happen. So we'll meet with somebody for 45, 50 minutes. I'll have a little background on them, and I'm going to put a label on them. And those labels don't go away. Those labels stay with you. Those labels are in medical records. Those labels are owned by insurance companies. They can access those labels at any time. They can audit those labels. So it's this idea of, we have a lot of power with this book. And we throw these labels on people like right and left. We've had multiple guests on our podcast who within 15 minutes are given major mental health diagnoses from providers the first time they ever see them.
Wow.
So you can walk away with major depression and bipolar disorder and borderline personality disorder all within one session. And those are very, very dangerous things to have on, I want to say dangerous, but if in the wrong hands, very misused. And patients believe they have these things within a quick session. So this book, if not just used carefully, I guess is the only way I can say it, because I think the whole premise behind it is actually it's very hard for us to be careful with it. Like when I'm even talking about it. But that goes back to whatever your original question was, because I don't even fucking know what you asked me.
You
I'm too busy
absolutely
looking at
answered
this
it.
book that I burned.
You
This is
answered
the
it.
part I hate.
Yes.
So whatever it was.
The other layer to that book, and we don't have time to get into it today, is the actual creation of the book and how it was primarily funded through big pharma, and it goes deep. That book is it goes super deep, and it's super awful, and I specifically think the harm that it can do to our children, because that does carry forward. Jen and I have seen it in practice, being denied careers because of a diagnostic in your childhood. I've seen denials of life insurance policies, so like so people are the consumer is very flippant about the diagnosis. They don't seem to care as long as insurance pays for it. This is one of those things, we don't care until we have to care. Until it impacts us personally, we don't care about it, so that's another layer of that book that I think Jen and I've talked a little bit about that on the podcast, actually.
And so we hate it, so we've tried to burn them. I mean, that's literally why there's burn marks.
They
all
don't
over
burn.
this.
The pages are too waxy.
Don't.
Apparently,
like the only
they're
thing
made
that
to
is
not
burned
burn.
is all these tabs I have on here, right? Like the pages themselves do not burn
They
very
don't
well.
burn.
But I could take this and completely abolish it from my practice, or even, and that's what it's about. Like, I will tell people this is something you get curious about, because the etiology of these books, right? This is the 5th version of them. There is not a clean history. The history is very tied to big pharma. It's very tied to people that have contributed to it, that have gotten significant kickbacks from pharmaceutical companies. It's very interweaved with some dark shit, and yet we hand this out to people every day
on a whim.
So
when do you think, and this is to both of you, and I've still had the direct question I want to ask Teralyn in a moment, but in terms of labeling someone, like let's say labeling someone as anorexia, like you have anorexia or you have bulimia, is that ever helpful in your opinions?
Oh man, that was a long pause, wasn't it? Like, so I'm trying to dig out reasons. I mean, I hear people say that knowing allows them to understand. But I think we run a risk of knowing and then living within that. Like now I've been labeled with that, so now it becomes part of my identity, or a reason why I can't, I'm going to use the word perform for lack of better words, a reason why I can't do something, or it looks a certain way. So I think we run a risk, a big risk, when we all use over label somebody, or the idea that a label never goes away. Because I feel like age and stage of life ebbs and flows, and something that applied to me, even 5 years ago likely doesn't apply to me now, but suddenly I have that label forever. So I think that's problematic.
I want to jump on that too for your question, Victoria. So when a diagnosis of like anorexia or bulimia or some form of an eating disorder is given, the other thing that I think about is if it is given more like flippantly, I guess is maybe the word I'll put on, and what often happens is those diets, once somebody is labeled with them, it's like the magic ticket then to go, okay, here's all the treatment interventions then that you're going to need, because you've been diagnosed with anorexia. So these are the interventions that you need. And that scares me a little bit, just because we just have removed a lot of like individualized approaches then. And we are now going to put you in all of these treatment interventions that are very evidence-based and very specific to anorexia or bulimia or some form of an eating disorder. Right. And so that runs a risk too with that label, because then for some people, they stop, kind of like what Terry said, they stop getting curious outside of that box. And it's then this is what I need. This is the intervention I need. When in reality, there was a ton of trauma in the past, or shame work in the past. Okay. Or events that shaped your life that have led to the way that you view yourself and the relationship you have with your body and with food, that doesn't fit into that little anorexia cognitive behavioral treatment box that we're going to give you. Right. And so that is also, to me, that risk, I think, that is problematic. When you give somebody that label, at least
Well, Jen and I talk
kinda,
about the illusion of individuality in treatment, because
yeah,
it's an illusion,
it is an
because
illusion.
you'll say like, oh, we'll just use anorexia as your case study here. So, oh, you've now been diagnosed with anorexia, so now this medication is for you with your anorexia, when it's the same freaking medication that the guy over there with depression or anxiety is taking. Or,
Yes.
it's really, we make it out to be so individualized, but it's really not as
Yeah.
individualized as you think. And we think a label makes it individualized, where
Mm.
we're really, I'm more of a believer of your symptomology makes it individualized, your history makes it individualized,
Yes.
you as a person make it individualized.
Yeah.
So there's that. The other piece to this I wanted to add in was also like addictions, right? So once an addict, always an addict is what people say,
Mm.
right? Like,
Yeah.
to that either. But if you have the label of addiction in your record, is probably worse than depression,
Yes.
so that will eliminate you from a lot of things, actually, which then also scares people into getting help, right? But so
Yeah.
I look at my husband. I always use him as the case study. He is 30 years, I say 30 years of sobriety, which is true, but that also implies that he still has an
Mm.
addiction issue. Doesn't, you know what I
Yes.
He
mean?
will
So,
forever have one. He will
right,
forever have one.
exactly.
Like,
So
it's labeled that way.
it's
Yep.
Mm.
right, exactly. And I'm like,
Yeah.
is my husband an addict? I would say no, not for many, 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 many moons. What he needed was a change in his life, and that's what he did. So, and all of that is now gone. But, on paper, it's not,
Yeah.
and
I
how we
hear
talk
what you're
about it, it's not.
saying. Is it,
Hmm.
do they use the word remission and eating disorder recovery? So I think that's the right word, where they say, oh, you're in remission, but
Listed in the
then
It
book.
is. Yeah.
there's always like, I read and understand that as, but be careful because you can always go back into
Yes.
the eating disorder. Whereas
Yes, it
I've
is.
had
Yes.
anorexia, bulimia, binge eating, and I'm 100% completely free and recovered. And I have zero fear of going back because I've fucking healed at the root. So there's no
Right.
Yes.
relapsing because it's not a coping
Yes.
mechanism anymore because I've dealt with the shit at the core of the whole thing.
Right.
Yes. Yes. And we
Yes.
would label you in full remission, or full sustained remission, or all these dumb little
Mhm.
identifiers, right, that go on the
We don't take the
diagnoses based off the
diagnosis away.
duration.
We just
Yeah,
make it
but
a
yet
new
it still
label.
sits there, right?
Mhm.
Or anorexia per history,
Right.
bulimia per
For
history.
history.
And that
Yeah.
will be listed till the cows
Yeah.
come home. And
Mhm.
yet that label, right? That label, while the history part matters, right? Like, I can understand why it would matter. The way in which, the context in which many providers use that,
Mm.
I think is too siloed. Like,
Yeah.
I think
Mhm.
we really cannot pathologize the shit out of something that was there 20 years ago and go, okay, yep, it's a tick, move on.
Yes.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
we can believe in our patients and let it just, yep, there it was. If it's always going to be in there, it's there. Instead of really putting so much stock in the fact that probably is really contributing to what's going on with them now.
Right.
Yes, it has to be. Like, we just don't put a lot of faith in the patient to go,
There's no, and we're not even allowed.
I've fucking healed. I'm good.
Yeah. That's so funny, because I was just say we don't ever use the term healed,
Yeah.
right? Like, you're healed.
Mm.
You are a whole person, like all of these things. Like, the word healed, are you kidding me? If we use the word healed, we would be
Yeah.
sanctioned
We
probably
would
by the
be. Yeah,
state,
we would be.
Really?
because there's no healing. Right. Oh yeah, because you can't say somebody's healed. Are you kidding me?
That's
You
why
know,
I'm a
even
coach,
though people,
because I do what the fuck I want. Like, if I'm a
well,
coach, I have
oh my
no
God.
rules. There's no one watching me.
Listen,
Yeah.
listen, I have talked to Terry about this so many times. Like, I literally did not recognize until I started in private practice how much more freeing and aligned I am even with coaching than I
Right.
am with therapy, which like goes against all these stupid sheets of paper on the wall behind me that really are stupid, right? Because a lot of the shit that has went into this is so siloed, right? It's so one-sided. Like, but I'm like, God, I'm more of a coach, right? I mean, and I have a coaching practice too as well. But
Right.
that's more aligns with me so much more. And that's exactly why, Victoria, that exact reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my question is, and I do know the answer to this, but I want to ask it to Teralyn to begin with, because our listeners might not know. Why the F? Why am I saying why the F? Why the fuck? If someone is diagnosed with, let's say, anorexia, the first thing you said was they go to a psychiatrist, they get a medication. Why the fuck are we medicating people immediately without going into treatment to actually get to the root cause, not just cover up the symptom and all that bullshit?
Well, you know, big pharma is great at marketing, number one.
Mm.
But this was the, what was the original question? Something about a myth, and Jen showed the DSM book.
Yeah, so I asked you, like, what's
Um,
the biggest bullshit that you see in like
Bullshit.
therapy
bullshit. Okay, so
settings? Yeah.
this is the biggest bullshit that I was going to bring up actually. To For me, the biggest bullshit is the chemical imbalance theory of mental health.
Yeah.
That's the biggest bullshit. And the chemical imbalance theory has long been debunked. Like, there's tons of research. There was even a huge meta-analysis that was done, I think it was
It was
either
in
a
the last
year
couple
or
of years.
2
Yep.
years ago, which looked at all of it. Yes, that looked at all of it and said, you know, the the serotonin, I think it was based on serotonin. The serotonin theory has been debunked. It is not a serotonin issue, because that's the neurotransmitter everybody knows. That's what everybody talks about,
Yep.
right?
Hmm.
You're depressed, you have anorexia, you
Appetite.
must be depressed as
Yep.
well.
Appetite is
Right.
within the
This is a
serotonin.
serotonin
Yep.
issue. You're probably going to get an SSRI or an
Mhm.
SNRI, whatever. That theory is like dead.
Yeah.
That theory should be, it should be dead in the water after all of this research that's out there saying the neurochemical imbalance theory is not true. And the funny thing about that meta-analysis, after it came out, there was psychiatrists that came forward and said, oh yeah, we've already known this. And I'm like, if you already know something, why do you continue to perpetuate it?
Yep.
Like, they
Yeah.
legitimately are saying this is not new news. This is what, and I'm like, then why do you continually perpetuate that as why you have poor mental health, right?
Yep.
Like, so, but I think from a societal view, people are suffering and they are struggling, and the quickest solution, the most passive solution to a
Yeah.
problem, because we look for passive solutions,
It's easy.
is a pill bottle. Yeah.
Yep.
What's in
It's
the
easy.
bottom of a pill bottle is easy. Just like, you know, someone with an addiction, what's in the bottom of an alcohol bottle is an easy solution to your everyday problems. And that's what we're looking for, is easy, because I don't know if it's like the nutrition culture that we have now overcomplicates the shit out of everything. You know, like, you must have specific diets and specific things and specific, and if you don't do it at 100%, you're failing. You
Mhm.
know, Jen and I take a very different approach to that. Like, if you're doing something, I always tell people you need to get like a C on the assignment, not an A plus. If you get a C, you're going to make gains at that, but you have to do something,
Yeah.
right? You have to start somewhere to do something. Most people, when they start doing one thing, they'll start doing two things, right? So this is, if we could just stop overcomplicating what we think the solutions are, because it's really made up in our minds what we think the solution is, you know?
Yeah.
Or take away fear of solution. Like, Jen and I, like, my solution to my horrible anxiety was to quit my job. It was,
Yeah.
I had a prescription for an
Yeah.
SNRI that I took for 2 nights in a row, and I hated the way I felt. And I drove home the third day and I said, literally in my mind, I remember the conversation. You can medicate yourself through this job, or you can quit and be something and set yourself free from this. And the moment I made that decision was like a relief of all reliefs.
Wow.
Now, that decision for some people is way too scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Way too scary. They're not going to do it, they're not going to do it. Or, being able to change a relationship or change how you view a relationship or leave a relationship, these things are complicated and they're scary. But I want people to know that on the other side of fear, everything is actually okay, right? I'm like, if you're a little bit afraid of something, that means it's okay to do it, really, because that means you are going to make the other thing actually work.
Yeah.
If you go in there with no fear and no, you know, ideas like you flailing around, maybe not, I don't know, but most people who make big decisions make it work. I
Yeah.
think we have this weird fear that we're going to end up on the streets in a, living out of a cardboard box. That is so unrealistic, for the majority of people.
Yeah.
But that's the fear. I'm going to lose everything, or you're going to gain everything, including yourself
Mm.
back,
Wow.
But I think that serotonin imbalance theory is quick, it's easy, and it's marketed heavily,
Yeah.
in the United States. Pretty much, well, right now, there's two types of marketing going on. One is for big pharma and the other is politics. So those two big things are all you see on TV right now. And the big pharma marketing is way more influential than the political ones, by the way. Anyway, politics needs to have big pharma marketing people on it. They'd do better. Anyway, so
Don't
my
say that out
thought.
loud.
Yeah, exactly. It might actually happen. But big pharma marketing is a huge beast and they do a great job. And the example that I give from this was my son, who's now in his 20s. He was at 10, maybe something like that. And he was watching TV and there was an advertisement that came on for, I think it was an SSRI. I don't want to say it was a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, and he was watching it and he turned around and he goes, sometimes I get sad and sometimes I'm lonely. And he was like repeating everything that was said on the
Wow.
TV. Yeah. And
Yeah.
he actually said to me, do I need that? Like, is that
Wow.
something that I need? And I said, no. I said, people get sad and people get lonely and people have these things, but that's how influential it was. And it's worse since that time. I mean, that was, 12 years ago or more, and it's gotten even worse. But I think because of the way it's presented, like this is the answer to your question, right? Like this is
Yeah.
the answer to why things feel the way that you do. You have a chemical imbalance. And of
When they
course, big
don't,
pharma's
when they actually
when you
don't. So
don't.
there's evidence
Right.
where there's actually they
Do you,
don't.
do you want to know when you do have a chemical imbalance? After you take psychiatric medications, then
Then
you
you're
have
ruined.
a chemical imbalance, right?
Yes.
Then
Then you
your
have a
brain,
real addiction.
you have a
Then you
real
have a real
addiction and you have a
addiction.
real chemical imbalance, and
Yeah.
that's what people don't understand. Okay, so it's really backward. You've
Yes.
created now forever consumers because people can't get off of this stuff,
Smart
right? Which is
marketing
what,
though, like you say. That's
very
great for
Yeah.
smart.
the money.
Very smart.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, it's huge business. But yeah, so the biggest bullshit is the chemical imbalance theory,
Wow.
in my
Is
opinion.
there
Fight me on it. Let's
ever
have a arm wrestle for that.
I mean, I'm loving where this conversation's going. And do you
Mm.
guys have 10 minutes over the hour if we need to go a little bit longer? Or do you need to wrap up on the hour just so I know how to guide the call?
I'm okay.
Yeah,
Jen, are
I'm
you
fine.
okay?
Yep. Mhm.
Yep. Yep, we're
Okay,
good.
Yep.
great. Is there ever a time where drugs, for lack of a better word, medication, I guess, is beneficial? I know like everyone is so different, but is there a time where some medication
Yeah.
is beneficial? And that's to both of you, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say I can think of a couple times, at least for me in my opinion, The first one that I think of is if someone has really exhausted all of their resources, possibly that they can, and they are extremely suicidal or very, very unsafe.
Yeah.
I
But
would
even then,
say
I'm going to argue with that point for just 1 second, because that's not quick. So
no, well, you're
if
talking, I
someone,
was going to actually add a caveat to it and not say,
go
and
ahead.
I'm not talking like an SSRI or a drug that is going to take 16 to 20 weeks.
Oh my
Right.
God.
Jump the gun, which is what they are. I mean, you're at least 3 to 4 months on one of these drugs to get the you know, they'll say the initial feeling, you know, 6 to 9 weeks. Like you need to give it 3 to 4 months. That's your kind of your beginning stage to see whether or not something is going to be helpful for you or not. So yeah, for sure. But I would say if there are a shorter term acting drug like a benzodiazepine or something that is a quicker,
Calm you down.
because you are in a space of you are not safe. I would say that matters. And even on social media, when we have people, because people argue this with us constantly, right? And I can speak to several of them because I've taken them. I'm still taking them. Like I could actually talk both sides of this because I'm doing it. Which then people shut up because, you know, I'm actually on the side of taking it and trying to get off of it after 20 some years. Right. I would say that those are good cases, for safety. And also, I don't know if it's because of the world that I've worked in, and Terry, you can talk about this too, but we worked with the most significantly mentally ill individuals within the prison system, within the state that we are in. That's what I did for 13 years. That's what Terry did for a handful of years too. And so we saw some cases of people that were really genuinely, truly psychotic. Now I say that, but then I also kind of question and wonder some of the etiology behind it, because I never met someone who purely was with me and hadn't already been on drug trial after drug trial after drug trial. Like I never got to actually, I don't believe, ever really be with somebody who was just clean and genuinely
a drug virgin
psychosis, right? Where we weren't on our 4th antipsychotic drug trial, or we've done a med wash where we take everything away from you and we expect that you're going to come to baseline real quickly. And then we start adding drugs again. I never got to really be with somebody in that space. There was a couple younger, I say younger kids because they had just turned 17 and were tried as adults and coming into the criminal system, but they still have these histories of these things. So I have a caveat when I say I think it could be very helpful for someone if they are truly, genuinely psychotic.
Yeah.
Typically they're not safe either.
Off of that. Yeah, I want to piggyback off of that. Yeah, I mean, antipsychotics are not very safe, but
no,
I want to piggyback off of that and say I have yet to meet somebody who has been in any type of psychosis, that there hasn't been. This doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I just can't think of one instance in my mind that hasn't had some history of drug or alcohol use or something like that, you know. So again,
addiction.
when we're talking about pre-existing chemical imbalance, right? So this is a deeper conversation, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
is there a time? And also somebody actually asked me this because I had just done a video on TikTok about the chemical imbalance theory, and they said, then how come it works for some people? And I'm like, well, anytime you dump a neurotransmitter at a higher dose into somebody's brain, you're gonna feel a certain way.
It is going to
Like,
shift.
it's going to shift. You're going to feel a certain way. Does that mean that you had a chemical imbalance to begin with, or does that mean that you just dumped chemicals into your brain and you feel a certain way? You know, if someone gave me a stimulant, I would probably clean the house for 4 days.
Your house would look immaculate.
It would look immaculate. I mean,
then you'd be like, oh, this is great. Look how
Yes.
fantastic it is, because I feel away and I'm doing all these things and I'm getting things accomplished I couldn't accomplish before.
But even with an SSRI, when we're just looking at serotonin, you know, if someone gives you a whole bunch of serotonin, you know, usually what happens is it's not immediate. I hear people like, I feel sick, I feel, you know, a certain way, all these things. And the rule of thumb is, well, you just have to wait it out and get through all that. And I'm like, okay, to me, and in my little feeble mind, that tells me that maybe there was nothing wrong with your, neurotransmitters in the first place, that now your body's trying to find this new homeostasis with too
Yeah.
much,
Yeah.
and it's starting to downregulate and starting to figure out what the fuck to do now, because you've just dumped a bunch of serotonin on your brain and body,
Yes.
by the way. So,
Yes.
and I'm like, okay, does that mean that you had an imbalance and it's trying to make an imbalance? Or
Mm.
I'm just too curious about this now to like,
Yeah.
to just be like, okay, this is the answer to your prayers, people.
Right. Right. And that's
Like,
what I was going to say. Even for us to answer this question that you asked,
listen to
Victoria,
us
is
talk
like,
about it. We're like, I don't know.
yeah,
Like,
we talk in circles, because like
yeah.
what we used to know, like I can speak for me, and I don't know, Terry, I don't want to talk for Terry, but I'm going to anyways, like what we used to know, what we were taught, how we practiced, even within the context as therapists, often was very siloed. When we were working in our old positions, right, where we weren't as curious, and what was hand delivered to us was, here's how we treat somebody, and the treatment includes psychiatric intervention, right?
Yeah.
Every time.
And every time, like, we didn't have patients that were not medicated. That wasn't a
Right.
thing. There were very few and far between. And when they weren't medicated, it was kind of interesting, because the context was always, well, maybe you do need something to help a little bit with your mood swings because you came here and you're not medicated.
Wow.
Like,
Right.
so that was always part of the picture, but psychiatry was part of it. And so to answer your question, like, what we would see in the beginning was the answer was, yes, things do need to be medicated, because everything works in tandem, right? We're going to bring in therapy, we're going to bring in psychopharmacology, we're going to bring in like some nutrition stuff, which was very little, because that was like a big taboo. Like, you don't do that, because it's either cognitive behavioral therapy, psychopharmacology, that's it. In pharmacies, that's it. This is all we're doing. But we got to bring in a few other things, some exercise things, some therapeutic rec, but what we were given, to go back to your original question, right, was if someone had any kind of mental health diagnoses, yes, medications went with it. That was part of the whole holistic wraparound plan.
Wow.
So then when we stepped away from that, it was like, wait a minute, that's the piece that 99% of the time actually needs to be removed from the whole plan. And so we circle talk a little bit now, because to answer your question, like, there may be some cases where someone is genuinely psychotic, and they truly need some psychiatric intervention of some sorts. Most of the time it's because there are safety concerns. And to be fair, usually we're more worried about the safety concerns and the litigation behind safety than the patient themselves.
Liability.
By the way. But it's very few and far between now. So when we talk about that, or if we have, somebody who genuinely is suicidal, and there needs to be some safety measures put in place, but it's like super few and far between that an antipsychotic does make sense if you look at their whole history, or that a benzodiazepine does, or a narcotic of some sorts does make sense, because it oftentimes doesn't anymore because of what we know now.
Yeah.
Like,
Wow.
Well, and I think about the Joey Marino story. Like, so we just did a podcast episode on his story, which is tragic. He's an American actor, and he took his own life in the end. But he had such severe side effects from everything. But the answer to the side effects was more medication. Okay. So, which looped him into just akathisia, tardive dyskinesia, tardive dystonia, like everything this guy had. Like, he could not function anymore.
Yeah.
But it's always curious when the answer is more medication, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Jen and I talk about the 4 pillars of good mental health are nutrition, sleep, movement, and meditation. And when each of the answers to all of those, except maybe nutrition, because people dismiss that in the mental health world, which is crazy to me. How can you dismiss nutrition when it is legitimately the way that your body functions? Like,
Disconnected.
it's fuel, right? Like, I don't
Yep.
understand how you can dismiss it. Anyway, but the
There's
other
probably not
3,
much money to be made in nutrition.
There.
And as
there
you're
is not.
sharing,
No.
Teralyn, and anyone watching the video, I'm just going to plug myself in. So ignore my background change, and please continue as I plug my laptop in, because I don't want to lose you. So
Yeah.
That's fine. So sleep is answered through pharmaceutical, right? We'll give you a sleep aid.
Yeah. Yep.
Movement is answered through a pharmaceutical, meaning I will give you a stimulant. So now you have some, drive to
Drive and
go do
energy.
that.
Mhm.
Yep. And meditation is also answered through a pharmaceutical. We need an anti-anxiety medication to bring you down so that you don't have racing
Yes.
thoughts.
To organize your brain.
To organize your brain. So all of those
Yeah.
pillars are also answered through the promise of pharmacology. And
Well, Terry,
those
nutrition matters. I mean, let's go back to our GLP-1 drugs and all of these things that are coming out. Like, it's not here's your nutrition treatment plan. It's here
yeah,
is a new drug that has come out to
here's
assist
a
with
way
that
for you to
too.
not eat.
So
Here's a
it
way for you to
actually,
not eat.
correct. It actually
Yeah.
has hit all of those pillars.
You're
So
right.
I got to
Yep,
throw
you're
that
right.
in because it's there. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I didn't think of that. Yeah. But
Yeah.
and nutrition is definitely impacted by medication, period, because it not only GLP-1s, but stimulants for sure with anybody, like it destroys your appetite. So
Mhm.
you're not eating, right?
Yeah.
So you're not nourishing your brain or your body,
And food is
so
so powerful. Like the nutrition of food, like not all foods, but some foods can do so much because obviously our cells are created from the food we put in our bodies. So for that not to be a strong pillar is,
is weird.
beyond
Isn't
me.
it weird?
Yeah.
It's weird to me. And people cry over here that medical doctors don't have nutrition training. Therapists don't have nutrition
I was
training
Mm,
just gonna say that. Yeah.
unless you go get it yourself,
yeah.
Yeah.
like, which is great. I mean, I've done that. Um, but you're also looked at like, why are you talking about nutrition when you should be talking about thinking errors and, stuff like
Mhm.
that? And it's like, because we are whole humans, that's why we talk about that.
Mhm.
I can talk about whether I can ask you if you're drinking or smoking, but not being able to ask you about what do you eat? Like
Mhm.
as a point of reference, like what do you eat? Do you eat any protein? Do
Yeah.
you eat any fruits and vegetables? Like I'm not allowed to ask you that. Like that seems
Yeah.
asinine to me. Completely asinine
And
when we're
people stray
looking at
away from that. Like, they stray away from
yes.
that big time. Even in our practices, that is, there are off
Mhm.
limits things. And for many people, they will say to me, Jen, don't talk to me about what I eat
Yep.
because I'm not changing any of that. They
Yeah,
will
or it's
flat
not
out say
about
that.
that. It's not about that. It's
Yeah.
about,
Yep. Yep.
my mother-in-law or my
Yes.
spouse or my kids or,
Yeah.
Mm.
definitely not about you,
I'll say, okay, well, guess what? Then we may not be the best fit then, because this is my
Right.
jam. Like, so
Right.
just so you know, you're
Mhm.
siloing yourself into trying things, So
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
nutrition is
Well,
one
because
people
like
don't.
mental health is very different than dietetics, right? Like
Right.
Mm,
in the States, everything is like its own specialty,
Yeah. Well, you
right?
got your head doctor and your med doctor, and we are the head doctor. So therefore, all we can really do is like cognitive behavioral shit.
interesting.
Right.
You two should
Hmm.
just book it and be coaches and then just do everything. Well, you do anyway, right? 'Cause
Yeah, I mean,
what I'm
we
hearing is
both do.
you both do
We should.
your holistic way of supporting people.
Hmm.
I say that all
We
the time. I go, how do I get out completely of therapy? I've said this to her, and I said, do only coaching and actually still be able to, like, pay for shit and raise my
Yeah.
tiny humans with clothes on them and things, right? Because that's a hard market for us where we are. And so to be able to only
Mhm.
take private pay clients and only do coaching would
Yeah.
take, it would take a bit, but that's ideal because then you don't have
Mhm.
to deal with all the other bullshit.
Yeah.
But that's
So my last question is it's such a big question, so feel free to just, visit the sidelines of it. What's the answer here? So let's say someone's listening and they're on all sorts of things. I mean, I have many clients who are on all sorts of things, and they are listening to this conversation. They're like, this makes so much sense. I want to get off. Like,
Mhm.
what would you advise them? I know you're not, well, I was going to say, I know you're not doctors. Teralyn is, but,
Well, I'm not a medical doctor.
yeah,
I mean, let's make that clear.
yeah.
yeah.
But what
A
would you
PhD
advise?
doctor.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. And
Um,
I'll argue that and say I'm not a doctor and I can tell you more about deprescribing than any
that's
fucking
right.
white coat you're gonna meet in your entire life.
100%. I mean, so this is kind of Jen and I's jam now. I mean,
Yeah.
we are really working with people on deprescribing. And so in order to do that, like we do a bunch of functional medicine labs. I send people to their doctor for labs. Get your prescriber on board. In general terms, get your hands on the Maudsley deprescribing manual that they have. But also work with a practitioner like Jen or I. We can work over the pond too, just so you know.
Yeah,
Um,
online,
yeah,
through Zoom.
yes, online everywhere, on a plan. And so your plan is going to include the 4 pillars: eat, sleep, move, meditate. It's probably
Mhm.
also going to include some supplementation that is very pinpointed to now the neurotransmitters that are imbalanced for you. Because like
Yeah.
I said before, probably wasn't in the beginning, but now it sure the hell is. Okay. So now we need to account for that.
Mm,
And you can't just take something away without your body going into withdrawal, you
yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So what we want to do, my whole goal is to make the withdrawal less. Okay. So to make it less, it would be great to make it 0, but I have yet to come across anybody that it's 0.
Mm,
But the intensity is less, and also to get to know your body so you know how to deprescribe on your own through tracking symptomology and understanding patterns, is very important. So deprescribing is a big deal. And to be honest, like I just worked with someone the other day who only wanted to deprescribe down to a certain level. Okay. And then they're going to reassess later, but they really just wanted to get to a certain level, and not take as much. We can do that too. You know,
yeah.
for everybody's journey is different. I'm never going to disparage somebody for wanting to stay on something, because there's also a
Yep.
lot of fear behind that.
Yes.
But if you want off, like I, the best thing you can do, call us.
Yeah, like I think, and to back up what you said, Terry, to even go broader, like if if you're listening to this podcast and something clicks or resonates with you, right? And you go, I need a starting point. Um, what I tell people is like, just get curious about the idea in general of what things could feel like or look like if you were taking just a little bit less. You can go online and you can do a search for any of this kind of stuff, right? And start to learn about what it actually is and why you don't necessarily want to always follow the guidance of your provider. We will always say your provider needs to know exactly what you're doing. They have to be on board with this, because part of deprescribing is that they have to be able to oftentimes change that prescription for you, because you're going to
Mhm.
start to get to these tiny little doses where you're going to need to compound these meds, and that matters. So what I tell
Mhm.
people is you have to be at the jump. They have to be in the loop, but get curious about start the conversation and see what comes back at you. And if what comes back at you from your prescriber is, okay, well, let's just cut these pills for a couple weeks and you can be done, right? You
Mhm.
just take that information and you don't do anything. You don't have to have action with anything, and you sit with it, and then you start to read a little bit. And then you look people up like Terry and I, and get on our socials and listen to what we have to say about deprescribing. Get that manual Terry was talking about and actually read a little bit about why it would make sense to go really slowly and titrate off of a medication versus just cutting it out of your body. Like, get curious. That's the
I
whole
think
deal.
yeah, I mean, she's really talking about making the plan individualized to you, instead
Yes.
of, again, answering the deprescribe with a non-informed and lack of individual care. So you were
Yes.
prescribed not individually for you. They likely picked some arbitrary medication with an
It's a
arbitrary
starter.
milligram to start. Yes,
Yep.
exactly. Arbitrary. And then increased it because you complained that you feel a certain way on it. So that means you need more, right? So it's all very arbitrary, in my opinion. If there's a psychiatrist that says it's not arbitrary, call me. Let's chat.
I'll listen to
Yeah,
that for
I'll
sure.
listen to you. Yeah, exactly. But the deprescribing that's done in the prescriber's office, and by the way, most prescribers are not psychiatrists. They
Mm,
are
Yes.
family
Family
doctors,
docs, OBs.
OBGYNs,
Mhm.
right? Like, so they're not psychiatrists. So this isn't all just a psychiatry or psychiatrist problem, but the deprescribing is even less individual. It's, it's cut it in half every other day, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah, and be done in a month, even though you've been on it for 20 fucking years. Right. Like, so
Yeah.
that is not an individual plan at all.
Mm.
So Jen and I, our whole goal is like individualization of these plans. Like,
Yes.
you are a whole human, though we are physically relatively the same, our bodies respond to things very differently,
Yeah.
and my body is going to respond to something differently if I've been on it for 20 years versus yours, you've been on it for one, or less, or, whatever. It's so an individualized approach to this is the key, and it's going to take a long time, so have a lot of patience with yourself. you know when I say long time, it shouldn't take you 20 years to get off of something if you've been on it for 20, but it's going to take a couple,
Yeah.
2
And I
3
and I
whatever.
assume at the same time, when a client is working with each of you, then you will be working on the root cause, which is why they needed the medication in the entire first place, because they had symptoms of something deeper.
Yeah. Yeah. Or,
Well,
or
yeah.
they had a situation happen in their life, right? That got medicated when they didn't really, it was just a situation, right? Like
Right.
sometimes it's not as pathologizing as it's made out to be, but that's the point, is figuring
That's
that
true. Like,
out.
yes. Okay. So here's the thing. When Jen just said that, not this is what my son says. He's 22. Mom, it's not that deep. Like,
Mm.
some things are not that deep.
Yeah.
The majority of people go, especially women, they go and they complain about something to their doctor and they get a prescription. Now, that complaint can be they're working 60 hours a week. And what
Yeah.
they really need to do is not work 60 hours a week, but they're getting put on a medication because of the complaint, like to manage the complaint that they had, or the
Yeah.
complaint is hormonal.
Yeah.
They're now in perimenopause or menopause. Right.
Yep.
And so
Yeah.
that needs to be addressed
Wow.
from a hormonal position, not a psychiatric medication position. So not everything is, a deep rooted trauma, the
Yep.
reason that they got on something. The reason that, and this is, I think I have a great example, Jen does too. The reason I was put on an SSRI initially was to prevent postpartum depression. I was not depressed. So there
Wow.
wasn't a deeper rooted issue for that.
I
Okay.
Wow.
was put on 121 years ago because my boyfriend broke up with me
Oh my God. I didn't know
and I was
this bit.
struggling. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's the part that what Terry and I also offer, right? Is this personal piece of really looking at that too, because
Mm.
that all fucking matters. Like,
Mhm.
so
Yes.
these are all of the things that the questions that we ask, like, yes, because sometimes it isn't a deeper rooted trauma. Sometimes there isn't this ridiculous shame that occurred from when you were younger, right? Sometimes that is actually not the thing.
Yeah.
Right.
But we are forever consumers, and we are groomed in that way. And so I think the last thing I want to say is we offer something that I have found that I offer people that they do not get when they often are with their medical providers is true informed consent,
Mm.
and what that really looks like. Here are risks to what's happening right now, to what you're taking, to what's going on. Okay, here's our risks maybe you didn't think of. Here are some benefits. And then these are the other alternatives that could be there. If we're going to
Yeah.
deprescribe you, there's risks that, there's benefits to that. There are some other things that we could do alternatively. And we give all the options so that the patient can go, okay, I want to do this my way and make a decision on this the way that I would like to, which is something that often does not happen. It takes time. True informed consent takes multiple conversations, and it takes
Yeah.
time.
Right.
Not in your solid 15-minute average provider appointment, which is what our stats are in the US.
Wow.
So
What's
I,
that thing on Netflix? There's a documentary, and I can't think what it's called, about a painkiller drug that people were dying from because they were like so addicted to it, and the government weren't telling people how addictive it was. And I can't think what
oh,
the
that's an old one. I would say watch Medicating Normal.
medicating
Medic
normal.
Medicating Normal. Yeah, that's a good, it's a good one about why the over medicalizing of normal lived experiences, right? Like, so we're
Yeah.
medicating things that don't need medication. Like, I did not need medication to prevent postpartum depression.
yeah, I didn't
No.
I
need it
didn't need,
for a broken heart either.
You
Right,
just
exactly.
needed a shoulder
That's
to cry on, a space to share.
yes. Yes. Yes,
Wow.
exactly. So, get curious. And also one of the biggest thing is if you are going to choose medication, that's a fine choice if you
Mhm.
have full informed consent.
Yep.
Get full informed consent. Also, in my opinion, part of full informed consent is also asking your doctor on the very first prescribing appointment, what is the plan to get me off of this?
Ah.
Okay. So the
Mm.
deprescribing conversation starts at the first time you are prescribed. And if the answer to that is, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, let's not worry about that now, like whatever, then I personally would say don't take the medication until you have a deprescribing plan. Okay?
Yeah.
Because that is not a plan, that is manipulation,
Yeah.
or that is the doctor not really knowing.
Yeah. They don't have the
So
knowledge of how to
they don't have the
properly
knowledge, so they don't
deprescribe.
wanna deal with it right now,
Yeah.
okay? And
Yeah.
so the deprescribing plan happens on the first day of prescribing, alright?
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, last question for each of you. How can people work with you? Like, I know I'm assuming both of you do private work.
Mhm.
How
Yeah.
can
Yeah,
we
so the
work with you?
easiest way that and Jen, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but just reach out to us collectively on the Gaslit Truth Podcast at gmail.com.
Yeah.
That's probably the easiest way because otherwise we each have our individual socials and things all over,
Yeah.
TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and we have it for the Gaslit Truth Podcast as well. So either of
Yeah.
us will answer no matter how you want to,
And
send
that's
it.
what I was going to say, even a DM to, hey, how can I get a
Yep.
hold of you, and we can respond back
Yep.
with that email address too, because it's something that we share and we manage together.
Mhm.
And then we can take that and separate that out to then looking at practice wise what makes sense, what could we offer. And we've had many people do that already, which is really cool.
Mhm.
They
Yep.
shoot us an email, and then we go from podcast mode to, okay, here we are as either therapists or coaches, depending on what you want to do. And then
Yep.
we respond from a different platform and things like that. So that's probably the easiest.
That's awesome. I have taken, and this is so unprofessional that I'm literally leaning over on a frigging desk because my laptop charger doesn't reach, and I thought I'd have more battery, but whatever. I'm so grateful for both of you for being here and for sharing, because I've learned a ton, and I think this conversation is going to be so helpful to so many. And of course, I will link your podcast and YouTube on here. They can go to your YouTube and podcast and see loads more conversations like this, right?
Yeah. Oh, for
Oh,
sure.
100%.
Mhm. Yeah.
Every
Yes.
week.
Yeah.
Yep.
So thank you so much, ladies. It's been an absolute pleasure. And listeners, YouTube watchers, please let us know what you think of this episode. Tag us in it, share. I really want to hear from you. And if you'd like to have these two ladies back on again, because I would, then please let me know and we'll make that happen. If they want to come back on again, obviously.
Yeah,
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, it's been really brutal, and I just blinked and an hour and 20 minutes went
Yeah.
by. So,
Right. Yes. It's all good.
But thank you, ladies, and sending you so much love. And to my listeners, I will see you next week. Much love.